is good.
You're live.
We're live. Okay, sound check. Sound check.
I
Can,
work. I'm fine.
can everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me? Well,
Everyone can hear you without that mic. You don't even need one.
I don't think anybody can hear us. We don't even have a counter up.
They've given up.
They've given up. Come on. We can't slip further back from 700 million. That's, really.
Angela, the Parisian farm girl, she was texting me. She goes, "We're number 9 on iTunes." I'm like, "Oh my God." I was like, "I'm number 7,959,642." I go, "People pay me not to be mentioned on our show."
That's the truth. Or we have negative sponsorship. Well, do you know what time it is, Jen?
What time is it?
Time. Our Lawrence Welk music. I love it. Hey, everybody.
Hi.
Oh, look who's here. Lucille Chavone. Hi, beautiful ladies. And she's back in New York. And she voted. Good girl, Lucille.
Good for you.
Oh, Aunt Marianne is here.
Oh, look. She found our show.
And Angela
must be bored.
Here. Wow. We've got a lot of people tonight. So hopefully all technical difficulties will stay away and we'll give you a great show. How you doing, Jenny?
Fabulous, Mother. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. And tonight we have a great show. Anthony Fauci announced he's going to retire at the end of the year from his job of chief medical advisor to the president. Did you hear that?
He said he's not retiring. He's moving on, which to me, it's the same crap. But again, people are dumb, so they'll listen to him.
Well, that's the whole point of the show, because we are who we are, and because we are sarcastic bitches. We are bringing to you today a show about the great Anthony Fauci, who has captured the attention of the world. And not only are we bringing you a show about him, but we have an Anthony Fauci Award for gullible people.
Somebody has a lot of time on their hands during retirement. Wait, hold on. Leticia's mother is here, Josephine.
And my baby brother, Tony.
Hi, Grandma. Hello,
and
Tony.
There we go. Wow. Well, so let me tell you about the Anthony Fauci Award. So the Anthony Fauci Award is going to be handed out for people who are gullible, or people who are considered dumb, because we all know that Anthony Fauci spoke a whole lot of gibberish and expected that the public would listen to him. And guess what? Most of them did. So it's only right for us to give awards. So this first award is fantastic. We don't know exactly who we're giving it to, because wait, we have more people here. Hi,
she's getting overwhelmed. Everybody, calm down with the viewership.
Stop that.
We can't go into double digits already.
We're going into double digits already. So, and we love that you guys are with us tonight, and we love that you guys are commenting already. He failed at the AIDS epidemic, he failed at the H1N1 epidemic, and now he's failed us at the COVID pandemic. My only problem is that he wasn't fired instead of allowed to retire. That's George Passarella, my partner. And George, you're absolutely right. And that retirement is somewhere around $245,000 a year. So
did he comment on the monkeypox yet?
Well, he hasn't commented on monkeypox yet. I mean, I guess he's leaving that for somebody else to do. So, what's that?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. Well, so our first clip is our award winner for this week. We don't know who we're going to give it to, but it was sent to me by a viewer, and it was actually we should give it to the viewer. It was sent to me by the viewer, and we could talk over this because there's no sound. Watch this. Read this tag found in a toddler's clothing. Wash inside out, remove child before washing.
Now that must be clothing for liberals. Those were Biden sweatshirts. Onesies.
Remove child before washing. Talk about making sure you cover your ass. That was definitely a cover your ass situation. Chris Lazaro, how you doing, Chris? Good to have you here. Yeah, but that was in fact in a toddler's piece of clothing, and I'm going to tell you who sent that in right now. I believe it was Joan, but I just want to make sure that I have it absolutely right, because I don't want to be taking credit away from anybody. It's actually on my Facebook page. So
no one's even going to know if you took credit for it, because only 9 people.
Well, actually, I can't find it without screwing everything up. But anyway, so that gets our Anthony Fauci Boy Are People Dumb and Gullible Award. And so we will be mailing that in the mail to our Facebook.
So you went through people's Facebook pages and took stuff off of their pages?
No. They tagged me. There are viewers sending me stuff to put on the air. The millennials need that tag. Don't take
it. They don't watch the show. I've never seen a Joan on here.
It's true. The millennials need the tag. So some of you may have seen a video on social media claiming to be a video of the IRS agent training where participants were fumbling with fake guns as they awkwardly tried to arrest the bad guys. So I don't know if you saw it, Jen, but it's been going around on social media, and some of the big guns on Twitter had it on their page as well. The IRS sprung into action, and they quickly denounced the video and said that this video was not of an IRS training, but instead of community outreach. I'm not going to bother showing the video on this show. Why? Because as I was looking through the videos, I found something that was far more disturbing. An actual segment on the IRS CI unit. And they were promoting themselves to make sure that all taxpayers stay in line. Watch this.
When you think about money and taxes, you probably think about accountants, audits, the IRS. You probably don't think about this. It's a training day for these agents of the Internal Revenue Service CI division. Most people associate this kind of training with the FBI, Secret Service, but not the IRS. This year, IRS Criminal Investigations commemorates 100 years of service. It was formed in 1919 with the mission of finding and stopping criminal tax fraud, which at the time was one of America's favorite pastimes. This was the age of bootlegging, the Purple Gang, Al Capone, organized crime. Over the past 100 years, many things in America have changed, but some things have not.
For us, it's all about, obviously, the greed. Almost everyone commits a crime.
They can just kill you with fear. They don't need guns. I'm afraid of them.
So I don't know why that clip cut short, but anyway, they were saying that you should be frightened that the IRS will come after you with the guns and everything else if you cheat the IRS. So those 87,000 IRS agents with guns, boy, oh boy, they're coming after us. If anybody believes they're only going after the billionaires, then they are absolutely going to
We just said that they were just going after the billionaires, 400,000 and up. Well, not billionaires, but.
Well, that's what they said, but the clip showed that they're coming after everybody.
They're going to go after
They've
the
been
low
around
people
for 100
first,
years.
And then they're going to move their way up. They're going to wipe out the middle class. They're going to wipe out the bottom. Then they'll make their way up.
That's right. So for all the liberals out there that believe that there's nobody under 400,000 are going to get audited or arrested or come at you with guns, ladies and gentlemen, This CI unit has been around for 100 years, and their whole goal is to make sure that everybody pays their taxes. So if you don't believe that they're coming after the middle class, I have a bridge to sell you. That's for sure. My mother says I have something hanging out of my hair. Well, Mom, it's either my earring. It could be my earrings, or it could be white paint, because I have been doing DIY around the house. George says taxes started the Revolutionary War. Just saying. You're absolutely right, George. I'm saying the same thing. So I wouldn't be surprised. And just for everybody to know, the person who sent me the tag was Gloria Scudara. And so big shout out to Gloria. Thanks for that. Your post won the Anthony Fauci Award. If you guys have any other things for gullible people, send them my way, and we'll put you in the running for the Anthony Fauci Gullible Award. Okay, so in the beginning of 2017, Anthony Fauci addressed a group of people at Georgetown University, and he made a prediction. Do you want to take a guess at what that prediction was, Jen?
COVID.
Well, kind of. Watch what Anthony Fauci had to say.
Given, as you heard from the introduction, that I have been around for a while and have had the opportunity and the privilege and the pleasure of serving in 5 administrations, I thought I would bring that perspective to the topic today, is the issue of pandemic preparedness. And if there's one message that I want to leave with you today, based on my experience, and you'll see that in a moment, is that there is no question that there will be a challenge to the coming administration in the arena of infectious diseases, both chronic infectious diseases in the sense of already ongoing disease, and we have certainly a large burden of that, but also there will be a surprise outbreak. And I hope by the end of my relatively short presentation, you will understand why history, the history of the land.
Well, I mean, we have a large outbreak of assholes. So. He was right.
Well, listen, it was a surprise outbreak. Now, why was it a surprise? How did he know? Could it be because he was funding some studies at the Wuhan lab, as he has been accused of doing by our Congress members? Could be. Maybe. That Anthony Fauci knew. It could also be that he was just going through history and recognizes that
he was reading the almanac. Imagine that's it.
That's it. He was reading the almanac, or imagine that he was funding the gain of function research at the Wuhan lab that caused COVID, which is exactly what people are trying to put those two videos together. I'm not saying. All
right, QAnon, calm down.
I'm not saying that it's so, but I'm just saying, isn't it interesting? But if it was so predictable and the pandemic was so predictable, you would have thought that perhaps he would have been a little bit more prepared.
The Asians have been walking around America wearing masks for so long.
It's true.
Really? We all had something to say, but.
Well, you want to hear what Anthony Fauci had to say about masks in the beginning?
Really, but go ahead.
And then how he changed his tune? Watch this.
Right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with masks.
You're sure of it? Because people are listening really closely to this.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often, there are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
And can you get some schmutz sort of staying inside there?
Of course. But when you think masks, you should think of healthcare providers needing them, and people who are ill.
Let's talk about this mask thing, because now the CDC says, I think I've got this right. 1 mask is better than 0 masks. 2 masks is better than 1 mask, but you don't have to have double masks. Is that right?
It is. In fact, Savannah, you and I had this conversation on your show. It must have been a month or so ago, because someone had said, I've seen people wear 2 masks. The recommendation is not that you have to wear it. What the CDC is saying, that at minimum, wear a mask. Okay, this is what they're saying. Make sure you wear a mask. So you wear a mask. Then you want it to fit better. So one of the ways you could do it, if you would like to, is put a cloth mask over, which actually here and here and here, where you could get leakage in, is much better contained.
So don't wear a mask. We don't need a mask. Now we need 2 masks.
Now we need no mask. Now we don't need to quarantine. Now you don't have to have a test. Now everyone can come over the border and go to school without a vaccine.
The thing about Fauci is he says it's science, right? Follow the data. I follow the data. I follow the data. And he can't understand. He cannot understand why Americans are so angry with him right now. He thinks people are picking on him. But this is the kind of crap that he did.
Only the good-looking people are picking on him. We don't want to cover our faces. That's it.
Leakage. Yep, leakage. He makes my brain leak, Angela. Chris should have just handed out body condoms like Naked Gun. There's complete protection. Yeah, well, I agree with you. Body condoms would have worked. Maybe could have worked. We don't know, because everything changed. And listen, I'm not giving him a hard time, because I do understand that they didn't know what they were.
1 second. I don't understand. I'm moving. I'm moving again. And I feel bad because she brought food to me and I want it. And
go get it. Take the audience with you. Go get the food.
All right, hold on.
Jennifer's got a food delivery.
Wait, AJ, where'd you go? Hold on. I'm on my podcast. Where'd the food go? Oh, she left it on the floor. Oh, hi. Say hi, everyone.
Hi.
Oh, there's food on the. Where is it?
Whoever is there.
You're on the podcast. That's pretty.
Well, do a man on the street interview, Jen. While you have her, ask her what she thinks of Anthony Fauci. Is she a mask, no mask, double mask?
You can't cover this face. Look at it.
I'm a no mask. I think it was necessary in the beginning before we had more information. And now we're at a point where we have to live our lives. COVID is with us forever. This is now a part of our lives, so we need to adjust accordingly. I, as a person in the events F&B industry, took a huge hit when COVID came around. We're still adjusting to it. In the theater world and on-stage productions, everybody's still adjusting to it. And I think even I was just working for a jazz organization in Jersey, and we had a summer camp with, kids with summer camps, and we had, kids in dorms and kids that went home and came back, and we were dealing with COVID the whole time. Yeah. And it was just in the last day of camp, the CDC released that, no social distancing, you're good to go. But it was very much a part of the fabric of how we operated. Yeah, and so the more that we can get, solid, sensible guidelines about how to live our lives in a way that makes sense.
Can you stop speaking so well? Because she's going to take me off the show.
Listen, I've got a podcast on Tuesdays. My co-anchor, sometimes she's there, sometimes she's not.
That would be me. Anyway.
I don't know about this one here.
All right.
We love Jen, but we'd love to have you come on and fill in when one of us can't make it.
Sure, anytime. Just drop me a line. You know where I live.
Yes, I love you. Thank you for the yes, girl.
Yes.
All right.
You're the best.
Good man. Oh, look at that. Good man on the street. Woman on the street interview. Can you say woman? I don't know.
she's a woman. Did I leave my door?
You didn't just throw it on the floor, did you?
No, but there's all those goddamn lantern flies everywhere.
Oh, you got to step on them. Does she know how to work on Chris Cuddy?
No.
Hi,
you know
Chris.
I left my blinds down for 2 days because I was busy and everyone thought I was dead. Everybody keeps knocking at my door, bringing me stuff, thinking I'm not okay. So
well, see
that's how you get free food. You leave your blinds down.
There you go. That's the beauty of living in a multi-residential unit. So anyway, he also, Fauci, had a definitive opinion on lockdowns. In the beginning, he said no, but then he said yes. Watch. Well, I tried again.
Fauci, there were reports that the White House, including Dr. Scott Atlas, one of the president's advisors on the coronavirus task force, may now be embracing herd immunity as a policy and may favor the so-called Great Barrington Declaration, under which only people at high risk of dying would be protected from the virus. Do you think herd immunity is a viable strategy for the U.S. to adopt?
Yeah, Dan, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'll tell you exactly how I feel about that. That, again, is another trap, because when you talk about the Great Barrington Declaration, what they say in there and then what is implied are two different things. They say, A, we need to protect the vulnerable. I totally agree with that. No problem. That's apple pie and motherhood. The other thing is that you don't want to lock down or close down the country. I certainly agree with that. I just said that. Our goal, which I believe we can accomplish, is to get the hotspot places, the New Yorks, the New Jersey, and help them to get around that curve. But as importantly, to prevent those clusters of areas that have not yet gone to that spike, to prevent them from getting that spike. And the answer to that is mitigation. Now, the 15 days that we had of mitigation clearly have had an effect, although it's tough to quantitate it because of those two opposing forces. But the reason why we feel so strongly about the necessity of the additional 30 days is that now is the time, whenever you're having an effect, not to take your foot off the accelerator and on the brake, but to just press it down on the accelerator. And that's what I hope and I know that we can do over the next 30 days.
He lost me when he opened his mouth.
Well, first of all, the reason he gets himself in trouble is because he says a lot of words, kind of like me. But
an AJ.
Yeah. But I mean, he doesn't think we should be locked down, and then he locks us down, not for 15 days to flatten the curve, but he added another 30 days, and then for New York that became 60 days and 90 days, and for big cities it was 120 days.
Then divorce happened, alcoholism happened, drug use happened, beatings of children happened. People started washing their kids in onesies. Oh my God, you're turning colors.
Yes, people started washing their kids in onesies. The whole freaking world went crazy. That's, so, and a little later, we're going to have a clip of his swan song on Neil Cavuto. Well, you'll see what he has to say. George says he has to run. And he hopes to see me tomorrow at Elephant in the Room.
Love
Just
you.
for any of our listeners, tomorrow, 7:00 at Canlin's Restaurant in Staten Island, we have an Elephant in the Room meeting. Elephant in the Room is a group of conservative people. I'm not going to say Republicans because they're not just Republicans. They're Republicans, they're conservatives, they're Democrats, they're blanks, they're first-time voters who are independent voters, people with conservative ideals who come together to try and effectuate elections. So dinner is served at Canlin's. It's $40 a person, and we have a great speaker tomorrow. Sam,
Fauci.
What's that?
You said we have a great speaker. I said Fauci.
Yeah. No, not Fauci. Not Fauci. I said a great speaker. Any rate. So you should all try and make it down. You don't have to call ahead. You can pay at the door. So anyway, you said it about washing kids in onesies. He was basically brainwashing all of us, or trying to. But here's his opinion on kids and school. This one is wonderful. It's round in circles. Watch this.
The default position we should have is to bring the children back to school. It looks like now that the test positivity of children in school compared to the comparable community is really relatively low. So it seems now maybe counterintuitive that the safer place to be for the children would be in school.
It is really not prudent to pull masks off children. It's understandable why people want to take masks off the kids, but right now, given the level of activity that we have, it is risky.
Schools are talking about requiring vaccines for children 12 and up. Is that a model you think would be useful for other schools around the country?
Lester, I do. I do believe that that's the case.
I just found this tag: remove brain before washing.
Well, the liberals won't like that, because then there could be no brainwashing. Dun dun.
I'm here all night, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Try the veal.
Yeah. So the thing with this guy is he knows that he is, the whole world is watching him. He knew that people were listening to him, and he promoted himself very well. I mean, he was on all of the circuits, every single news show. There wasn't. I found him on. I mean, that was Yahoo News. One of the clips that I had. So the guy went on every podcast, everything, and he contradicted himself at every turn, and he had like zero remorse for it. He didn't care that he was contradicting himself, and he got angry when people called him out on it. And at one point, I think he even said, you don't be mad at me. If you diss me, you're dissing science. Like, he was the representative of science. It's crazy. Is there somebody at your door? Is it your possum?
It's Christine. Stop it!
Oh, look at this! They brought you more food.
AJ just brought me food.
Hi, Christine.
Hi.
Oh, look at you! Wow.
I
I want to know why Jen left the house on Rion to move to Irby. Holy moly, this is fantastic.
Crashing the podcast?
Yeah.
This is so funny.
Say hi to our tens and tens of viewers, Christine.
Hi, everyone. I'm giving you cake, too.
Well, you can come in.
No, here's
Oh my God, the flies are. All right, I'll call you when I'm done.
Go in.
All right, bye. Love you. I swear.
All right, for our viewers, Jen is much older than she looks. She's actually 85, and her neighbors come and they check.
That was
in
an
on her.
accessoride.
Where's
Like,
Larry?
really?
Jen?
Really?
Well, where's Larry? Where's your possum?
I don't know, because I was in Brooklyn. I have no idea.
Oh,
And
no.
you know what? The first thing when I woke up, I go, I haven't fed this thing. So now it has tons of cake. Christine's obviously wants to get me fat. And AJ's trying to get me to use the bathroom because she gave me a scroll.
Well, tell everybody who Larry is.
Larry's my pet possum. I killed his mother by accident by ratting her out, and animal control came, and now there's a baby running around who comes out all the time as soon as I walk out, and we give him pizza and pasta and lo mein, and you've met Larry.
I have met Larry. I was there when you fed Larry, and I should have thought to get you to give me some of the video of Larry eating.
I have tons of video of Larry eating.
Yeah. Well, next week we'll actually put up the video of
Maybe
Larry.
Larry's gonna knock at my door next.
Maybe if you end up with a surplus, I can help make sure most of that food won't spoil.
Thanks,
All
Chris.
right, Chris. Very good. Well, Jennifer's house we were there for dinner the other night, and it literally a cavalcade of people from the community who stopped by to see her. She's a big star and everybody knows it. And so they all want to stop by and hang out at Jen's house.
This is what happens when you put your blinds down for 2 days. People get worried. They think you're washing your kids in the wash. It closes. It becomes a mess. All I was doing was trying to work. That's it.
Well, there will be no work here. You're like the Apple employees. You're not going to work. Absolutely not. Did you hear about that? I don't know if everybody else did, but Apple decided that it was time for their employees to go back to work. And their employees have now started a protest against the company. They don't want to go to work in the office because they said that there were too many white men working in the office. And until Apple hires more people of color and women and gays and transsexuals, that they did not want to go back to work.
You should just come to Irby. Just come here.
There's a
I have it all.
Big boycott in Apple. They do not want to go back to the office to work. So
wow.
You can. That didn't make it into our news today because I wanted to focus on Fauci. Go back to the office.
Very interesting.
But yeah, don't tell anybody you're working. They're going to think that you are in support of white male employment, because that's how it is. All right, so let's see where we are here. And let's see. Oh, well, this is his opinion on the vaccines. He had a strong position that vaccines protect us from the virus until he changed his mind. Watch this one.
The situation is so clear, the data affirm. If you get vaccinated, you are protected, even with the Delta variant, which, by the way, has a greater capacity to spread from person to person. And when you're infected, it has a greater likelihood of giving you serious disease. We know that as a fact.
One of the things that's clear from the data, that even though vaccines, because of the high degree of transmissibility of this virus, don't protect overly well, as it were, against infection, they protect quite well against severe disease leading to hospitalization and death.
When did he say that? What year was that? I mean, what month?
So the vaccine, the protecting, the when he was insistent that they protect you, it was the beginning of the year.
Okay.
And then everybody started getting infected, including him, who was vaxxed and boosted twice. And then he got a severe case of COVID and he was on Neil Cavuto. And it was so funny because Cavuto said, I heard that, Cavuto was in ICU. He was vaccinated, Cavuto, and boosted, and he wound up with COVID and he was in ICU. And so he is talking to Fauci about Fauci's case of COVID. And Fauci says, well, I got it. And because I was old enough and I fell in the category, they gave me Paxil. And within 2 days, I was testing negative. But then all of a sudden, the next day, I tested positive again, and I started getting symptoms again. So I continued on the Paxil, and now I've been okay for the last couple of days. And so, but then he said, the reason I didn't wind up in the hospital was because I was vaccinated. Now, that's bullshit. The reason he didn't go to the hospital was because he had Paxil.
Paxil is an antidepressant.
Oh, well, then it was whatever. I
don't know. I was just maybe.
I thought he said Paxil. Maybe it was I don't know which drug. All I know is he said hydroxychloroquine absolutely does not cure COVID. The stuff that cured me.
You.
Yeah, cured me. It doesn't cure COVID. But whatever he took was not the reason that he didn't go to the hospital. The reason he didn't go to the hospital was because he was vaccinated and boosted, but he still got COVID. Are you confused yet?
No, I'm not. Where's your bullshit button?
Attention, the bullshit meter has detected major BS. Confirmed. That's definitely some bullshit.
And that it is. So now here's one that I found that I thought was interesting. the first half, he's talking about it's about natural immunity. The first part, he's talking about the flu. Second part is COVID. Watch.
But she's had the flu for 14 days. Should she get a flu shot?
Well, no. If she got the flu for 14 days, she's as protected as anybody can be, because the best vaccination is to get infected yourself.
And
so if she really has the flu, she definitely doesn't need a flu vaccine. If she really has the flu,
she should not get it again.
No, she doesn't need it, because it's the most potent vaccination is getting infected yourself.
Will people who have already had the virus be recommended to get the vaccine as well?
The answer is yes, because once you get infected with the virus, it isn't certain how long that protection would be.
I don't know what's going on with our clip. Oh, well, because everything else is working now, our clips aren't. So anyway, he did. It ended there. They said he said you have to take the vaccine for COVID because you don't know how long the antibodies will last.
But he said the flu you don't need to, because the best thing is getting it and then.
Right.
But you don't like chicken pox lasts one time.
Yeah.
How come that lasts one time, but the flu? Well, I mean, I know there's different strains. I guess there's only one strain of chicken pox.
Well, actually, there's not, because shingles is a form of chicken
pox. And I got chicken pox after I got the vaccine.
That's right. Well, after you got chicken pox twice. You got chicken pox twice because you had a mild case. Just to correct myself on that last commentary, he took Paxlovid. Thank you, Angela Olsen. Not Paxil, Paxlovid. I got my
He
Paxil.
should be on Paxil too. So he might have taken
all right. I had flu and COVID. Oh, Lucille had a double header. Flu and COVID. Wait, did you take the flu vaccine, Lucille? I mean, the flu shot? I wonder. I got my flu shot. I always get my flu shot. Listen, honestly, I would have taken a COVID vaccine as well if I didn't have COVID.
Or if you weren't the guinea pig.
My antibodies.
5 years of testing something. That's when it goes into society.
Yeah. Well, and if you listen to any of his other interviews, you'll see that he talks about the studies for different things. And that speech at Georgetown, he actually talks about how they now made baseline mRNA vaccines and DNA vaccines, which actually change your DNA. And they're waiting to plug in the diseases so that they can push more vaccines at
The new establishment changes your DNA too. It makes you into a retarded asshole. An asshole. Did I use that word?
Oh, yeah. I'm shocked. So Lucille did not have the flu shot, so she had the double header without the shot.
So now the flu's back.
So,
It took a vacation.
Now the flu will go back because they realize that this is my opinion. Okay, we had COVID, and the Trump administration moved like lightning to deal with it. Okay, and I think he did some screw ups. I don't think he did, because he said shut down 15 days to flatten the curve. And then, Fauci said, oh, we need another 30 in New York and New Jersey and Chicago and whatever. And he listened to them, and he shouldn't have. I mean, after that first 30, he started saying that things had to open up. And when he said things had to open up, he became, they were crucifying him.
Well, he also got the vaccine out, and they said they were never going to take it. They don't trust it, yet they all push it now, and it's still being pushed.
That's right.
But they said absolutely not. Our vice president said it. Our mayor said it. Everybody said, I will not take that shot because our president did it. We don't trust it.
Well, then, but when Biden got into office, that old adage, don't waste a good crisis. He extended the crisis to keep control and to keep power, because that's what happens in pandemics. And later on, if we have time, I want to talk a little bit about the similarities between what happened now and what happened in 1918 and then in the Great Depression, and the things that are happening. They're very, very similar. But anyway, so Biden used COVID as a way to control the masses. And Fauci was his mouthpiece because everybody loved Fauci. And, oh, bravo, Fauci. But as with all things, people only have patience for so much. At a certain point, like your friend said, oh, she thought we needed the mask in the beginning, but Fauci said we didn't need the mask in the beginning, but then he changed his mind. We do need the mask. So people, take comfort, as Fauci rightly said. People put a mask on because it makes them feel better. They think they're doing something. They think they're protecting themselves. When you have nothing else that you can do, you do whatever you think you can to protect yourself, your own safety, and the safety of your family. And so the mask made people feel good. Biden started using the vaccine as a way to control things, right? And now the next thing we're going to talk about are the mandates and what those did. Jody Wasserman is here. Hi, Jody. Good to see
Jody.
you. So, this was all a feature of control. Don't let a good crisis go to waste. Biden wrote on that until he saw the damage that it did. And the damage that it did to our economy, to our psyche, to our kids, to families. And unfortunately for the libs, it exposed the education system for the farce that it is, and for the brainwashing entity that it is. And that got a lot of parents really, really pissed. So here's Fauci on mandates. Watch.
There are a number of people, for one reason or other, who just do not want to comply and get vaccinated. We've got to get them vaccinated. And hopefully they will do it willingly. If not, there will have to be things that will essentially put pressure on them, such as you're not going to work in this particular agency or institution. You're not going to be able to go to this college or this university unless, in fact, you get vaccinated. And I believe that once we start doing that, you will see more and more people willingly get vaccinated. Well, we are certainly not over it. And I think that, people have an understandable desire to put this in the rearview mirror and say we're through with it. But that's just not the reality, Neil. And when I say that, I don't mean to scare people or to get people feel they have to dramatically alter their lives or do anything with mandating a thing like that. We're not talking about that.
But if you come over the border, you can go to a university without it. If you're an athlete, if you're a singer, if you have money, you can do all of that.
Absolutely. And that's where the hypocrisy comes in. But that's why we have this award, right? How gullible.
That award scares me.
How gullible are the American people? What can I get over with? And that's what Fauci's been doing. He's been hiding behind quote unquote science. And I'm not a science denier. and a mask. Sometimes a mask, sometimes not. I believe in science, but when you prostitute science for political gain, then now it's not science anymore, because you're bending it to what you wanted to do. And I've always been a little suspect of some of the studies that are done, because in order to get funding for a study, you have to have a hypothesis, right? A hypothesis. You have to say, well, if I have 8 orange M&Ms and I put them in my hand and I leave them.
Be careful what you say about orange.
No, it's green. Green is the problem. It's the green M&Ms. I believe that they're going to melt in my hand, even though, it says it melts in your mouth and not in your hand. And then they set out, they say, give me money so I could prove this and disprove this claim that, M&Ms don't melt in your hand. And they get the money, and then they go out to prove that they melt in your hand, and they'll do whatever it takes to show that it melts in your hand. That's unfortunately what happens with a lot of science, right? You have to have a hypothesis, and then you have the study, and then you prove or disprove things. But these vaccines were supposed to be, we have this mRNA vaccine, we plugged in COVID, we believe it's going to do X, Y, Z for the public, blah, 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 blah. I would have went along with that whole thing if they didn't eradicate the control group. When they started mandating that everybody get the vaccine, they no longer had a way to compare things, because they don't even want to talk to you if you're not vaccinated. They don't even want that information.
Because they didn't have a way to turn, because people were getting it every which way.
Well, that's what happened, right? Is that he said the vaccine will absolutely protect you. And then they had to find another narrative. So now the narrative became the vaccine will protect you from death. It won't protect the spread, right? Remember, get vaccinated.
I know 2 people that died from the vaccine, and 2 people that died with the vaccine that died of COVID.
But they don't want to talk about that, right? They labeled that misinformation, and all of that unraveled our constitutional rights. That's where we got all of those fact checkers in. That's where social media started shutting people down. So from Fauci and his irresponsibility, Fauci was irresponsible with his PR. He took science and prostituted it so that it could have the outcome that the politicians needed at that moment in time.
Of course.
And that is what he's guilty of. Do I believe he funded the Wuhan lab? Yeah, probably gave money to WHO and to others to study, and probably some of it landed there. Do I believe he's making millions from pharmaceutical companies? No, I don't. I don't think he's.
You don't? I think that's where they're getting their money from. But if you really want to talk about science, the people that die of COVID, quote unquote, they would study their bodies to actually see if they had underlying conditions. Because if you don't know you have an underlying condition, you don't know what you really died of. But they're not putting these people through millions of dollars worth of tests. So they're just saying things. Was there a study of these people that died with the vaccine, without the vaccine, to see if they had underlying conditions like diabetes, obesity, blood clotting, heart failure, congestive heart failure, any of that stuff, to see if that contributed? Because even the flu kills 600,000 people a year?
Yeah.
But it went away?
No,
It just took a vacation? It just took a vacation.
60 to 70,000 people a year.
I added a 0.
Yeah.
But how did those people die? No one ever studies that. We don't know that. That's science.
That's right. And how about at the top of the show, we showed the IRS agents, right? The CIs that said that it's greed, that, wherever there's money, people want money and they'll do whatever they can to get money because of greed. Well, what happened to how many people died in motorcycle accidents or in car accidents or of other things? And they happened to have COVID when they died. So they put the cause of death as COVID so that they can mark it up and get more money for the hospitals. So these are the things that make Americans go, bullshit. We don't believe your science, because your science is it's hokey science. It's not, it's not real science.
I believe it's all in the vaccine. It's the money making. If you ever watch the Matthew McConaughey video, Dallas, what is it called? Dallas Cowboy, whatever that is, with the AIDS pandemic, how there is a vaccine and there is a cure. All of this comes into money. It comes into play with the vaccine and how the politicians are making money off of it. If you take a deep dive into what they put their stocks in, I guarantee you a lot of it,
most of them are
into pharmaceuticals.
Well, listen, if you take a look at the Georgetown University speech, and that is a 45-minute speech, if you look at that speech, you'll hear him say that most vaccine manufacturers, don't want to make vaccines in a reactionary way because they don't want to make experimental vaccines to get ready for pandemics because they don't know if they're going to make money off of it. Because at the end of the day, it's a business. Angela says a science of convenience. I agree with you, Angela. And I know that there are people, and Angela and I have had this conversation. There were people that were willing to throw themselves on their sword and say that vaccine was going to save us. But, we don't know whether or not it really did, because so many people wound up getting breakthrough COVID. Now, we don't know if the immunities in their system are from the vaccine or from the natural immunity coming after COVID.
Experimental on us.
That's right.
You cannot have an experimental vaccine on society.
Well,
you can have groups, but not when you give it to everybody.
You can't mandate it. You can't mandate it. And the truth is, if they would have said, listen, we have something, we're not sure if it's going to prevent COVID or if it's going to reduce, but we're pretty sure it's going to reduce the symptoms, no side effects, limited side effects, whatever. There would have been plenty of people, and namely people, I think 50 and older, who would have stepped up and said, you know what, I'll take it.
Look at the monkeypox vaccine. People are literally trying to get it and they don't have enough.
Right. Because now we've been so conditioned on vaccines, though. And now we're back with polio again. So what are we doing as a society? I mean, that becomes the thing. What did we do to the American people to screw with their head that they are now soldiers walking in lockstep, not going to question the government, going to live
washing your children in clothing.
We need
what our heads are falling off. What have we done, society? They have really mastered what they went out to go master. They did it.
100% they did. It's the great lie. They talk about, the 2020 election results being and that the election was fraudulent being the big lie. This is the biggest lie perpetrated on Americans, on the world, frankly, in 100 years. So this one tickles me because this is a very confident Anthony Fauci defending himself against Senator Ron Paul, who accused him of funding the gain-of-function experiments in Wuhan. Watch.
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function. Let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans. Right. You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially.
What happened? What's going on?
What?
Oh, it wasn't over on my end. I guess I'm delayed.
Oh, yeah, it got delayed. I don't know why, but some of the clips are getting cut off and some were running long, and that's really upsetting me. I hope this next one doesn't. But Senator Paul, you do not know what you're talking about. Now that's a doctor. Senator Paul is a doctor. He's a scientist just like Fauci. But don't challenge Anthony Fauci. That's for sure.
Look, it's Michael Petrides. It's Mickey.
Hi, Mickey. How are you? Good to see you, Mickey. Mickey, the best DJ that there is, best line dancer that there is. Good to see you, sweetheart. All right. And so this one is Anthony Fauci's swan song. I didn't test this one. I hope it plays all the way through. This is I grabbed it. This is with Neil Cavuto tonight.
Do you regret particularly the last one, the shutdown, the sweeping shutdown that some said made things worse?
No, I don't, Neil. And in fact, I think we need to make sure that your listeners understand I didn't shut down anything. There was a lot of consideration among the White House task force that we were reaching a point where the hospitals, such as in New York City and other places, were being strained to the point of practically being overwhelmed. And when Dr. Birx and I came with the proposal that we take 15 days to essentially get to the point where we slow, if not shut some things down, not completely, and the record will show, Neil, that we didn't.
Oh, crap. Sorry about that.
At least it's not me.
It is not you. It's for whatever reason the clips aren't playing through. Well, what he said.
Facebook shutting us down.
What he said, it could be. What Cavuto said was, well, do you regret the kids who lost a year of their life in education? Do you regret the people who, the damage that you did that is irreparable? And his response was that he didn't think that any of the damage was long-term or irreparable. So talk about bullshit. I mean, tell that to businesses that have closed, 100-year-old businesses that have closed their doors because of COVID. I'm all right. Just been busy with things. Going to see Bobby Joel tomorrow night with my sister. Oh, that's great to hear. And the hospital ship was never used. That's right. Yeah, and
it wasn't. But yet
No.
now there's an overabundance, and we let all the nurses go. So you
Right.
needed them at that time. So what happens if there's another pandemic?
Right.
You let everybody go for not getting vaccinated, and you cut staff. So now what happens?
Well, and the CDC director said today that everybody in NIH and the CDC were predicting that the next pandemic would be a pandemic of the flu. And, very good point that you just brought up, Jen. So they're supposedly so concerned about public welfare, and they want more and more money for studies. But meanwhile, the mandates, they let nurses go, doctors go, healthcare workers go because they didn't take a vaccine that does not stop the spread of the disease.
But now you don't have to quarantine anymore if you're around somebody. So what sense does that make?
It doesn't.
And the teachers are gone, and now we're shipping in everyone into the schools with less teachers, budget cuts. What is going to happen?
Well, but again, they sold us a bill of goods, and it goes back to how gullible can the American people be. So I'm hoping that this next clip plays all the way through. I cut it up. It was from the MRU. It's Professor Tabarrok. His name is Alex Tabarrok. It's a 10-minute clip, but I cut it down to 2 minutes. It's about the Great Depression. And the interesting thing, I'm just going to say it in a nutshell in case the clip doesn't play. That in 1918, we had the Spanish flu, and we had a lot of, similar situations going on. Schools shut down. A lot of the stuff that they did for COVID, they took from the Spanish flu, including that 6 feet apart shit, right? And so what happened was that it was the end of World War I. America was in good, pretty decent financial shape, but Europe was in terrible shape, and Germany was in such bad shape that it
is now.
It was like $1 trillion, whatever the German Deutsche, whatever it was worth $1 and they were trying to rebuild, but we had plenty of money going into the 1920s, so much money that people were buying vacuum cleaners and cars for the first time, and luxury items, automatic washing machines.
So it was like during COVID when everyone got their money.
Just before.
I was like, or do I have to be quiet?
Okay. All right. Right. Well, what they wound up doing was, it was like the 16 and 17 and 18 under Trump, when we all had a lot of money. And so what people were doing in the Great Depression, where they were investing their excess money into the stock market. But the problem was that because we weren't able, there were tariffs on other countries because of the war, because of World War I. There were tariffs on other countries, so other countries put tariffs on us. So we weren't exporting. And
exactly what's happening now with Russia.
Mm-hmm. And then what happened was they stopped drilling. They stopped doing a lot of things to try and artificially stimulate the economy. The stock market crashed, and the dollar was worth, you got 10 cents on a dollar because the banks closed. And the banks were the lenders, and they were fueling the economy, but they were invested in the stock market too. So the long
now we're
story
just getting
short,
robbed. Now the banks are just getting robbed. That's what
they didn't have the regulations that we have today. So if you put the money in the bank and the bank went under, you didn't get your money. There was no insurance.
No.
There was no any of it.
Federal Reserve.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, what wound up recovering us, there were a whole bunch of laws that were put on the books trying to stimulate the economy. And those laws actually, they impacted our civil rights, our right. It impacted the Constitution. They were unconstitutional. And then what ultimately happened was government screwed everything up, and World War II pulled us out of the Depression. So I hope that this will give a little better sense of that. Let's see if this clip plays.
The Great Depression was unlike any recession in recent times. Unemployment rose above 20%. 40% of all banks failed. GDP plummeted by 30%. And the stock market lost 2/3 of its value in just 10 years. The Great Depression is in many ways the Great Fall in aggregate demand. But real shocks also contributed to and slowed the economy's recovery. The bank failures mentioned earlier actually had two effects. When people lost their money, they couldn't spend, and so aggregate demand fell. But in addition, the banks were financial intermediaries. And so when the banks failed, the bridge between saving and investment collapsed, and the economy became less efficient. As is often the case, real shocks are often intertwined with aggregate demand shocks. As if all this wasn't bad enough, Mother Nature added to the problems of the U.S. economy. The Dust Bowl, that was another real shock. In the early years of the Great Depression, farmland, Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Colorado, and Kansas, farmland dried up and literally blew away. Finally, several policy decisions also caused negative real shocks. The Smoot-Hawley tariff, for example, enacted in 1930, taxed foreign goods. Other countries retaliated with similar tariffs, so our exports fell. The National Industrial Recovery Act was a terrible piece of legislation. Under the act, hundreds of industries adopted government-mandated codes that reduced competition and prevented firms from lowering prices. In one famous case, a tailor was fined and thrown in jail for charging 35 cents to press a suit instead of the legally required 40 cents. Moreover, at a time when investment was far too low, the act put quotas on investment and made competition in many industries illegal. Industries became monopolized and filled with cartels. Higher prices, lower output, less competition, all of this delayed recovery. Fortunately, some of the worst parts of the act were declared unconstitutional in 1935.
So
That's how it works.
Do you see the similarities, though? Do you see that the restrictions that government has put on being able to work if you don't have if you're not vaccinated was going to make some businesses close down? Only the bigger corporations will be able to survive. Post-COVID, only the bigger corporations were able to survive that, the COVID.
Not even
itself.
that. If you weren't vaccinated, you couldn't go to those places like to eat, to do anything,
right.
unless you had money, and then you can build a structure outside to accommodate people that weren't.
That's right. And now, right there, we have a recession. We have skyrocketing gas prices, skyrocketing. The clothing industry is in tatters. The whole fashion industry is in tatters because
people are washing their kids, but.
We're going to have those labels and everything now. Take off your body before going into the washing machine. But the similarities are so, and I really recommend our viewers should go and take a look. There are shorts on the Great Depression because most all of us, none of us really went through it.
History repeats itself.
But what happened was FDR did stimulus packages. He gave money to people to work. Okay. All right. Same thing.
You had to go to work.
but yes, they had to go to work. They worked building like little public work projects. But what they did was they created unions. That's where the unions were born, right? And they created a labyrinth of different things where the government had control of small business. So they stopped competition from happening. And when you stop competition from happening, you stop growth. And that's where we are right now. If just look along with what has happened to us over the last 2 years and what happened back in the Great Depression. History is repeating itself. And if we are all boobs, like Fauci says we are and believes we are. And if we just follow along and don't learn and understand that government is against us, then we are going to be suffering. So I suggest everybody educate yourself on what happened in history, because it's happening again. And at the head of it, and the other thing is that this new bill, they want to tax, quote unquote, the rich, right? The rich, they're going to tax. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's never going to stop at the rich. It's coming down to the middle class. So everybody get ready, put your money in your mattress.
The new middle class, and we'll be dead. So
stop borrowing money, because if once we collapse, that's it. Your debt, if you owe $1,000 today and we're in negative inflation, if negative inflation is by 10%, that means that you owe $110. If it's 1,000, you owe 1,100. If it's 100, you owe 110. You owe more. Even though the dollar value collapses, you're going to owe more because of negative inflation. Don't let us get there. Make sure you go out to vote. Today's primary day in New York and Florida. So if you haven't voted, vote. I think you have until 9 o'clock. I know you have until 9 in New York. I don't know how long you have in Florida. And that's it. Jen, you got anything else?
No.
All right. Well, I figured out the bug in the clips, so that won't happen again. We're getting there. Everybody have a great week. See you next week.
Bye.